what kind of life is even there. Anyways, good timing. I just got cut off. All right, so when I don't understand, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. The fuck is that? It looks like a fucking go-kart coming down the street. It's a little ass car. But anyway, so I lost my fucking train of thought. What the fuck is going on down there? Anyhow, so this Big Bang, if that's really what happened. And it's like, here's the thing that I think about the Big Bang too, is that if the universe has been around for 13 something billion years, and if God created everything in 6 days, and it went from like nothing to everything to infinity in 6 days, that would pretty much look just like a fucking Big Bang, wouldn't it? It'd look exactly like that. Especially 13 something billion fucking years later when you're looking back at it. And like, oh, well, everything's moving outward and da-da-da. And it's like, well, maybe God stood in one place and said, poof, and everything, it shot out from that point. Because if the Big Bang, if everything came from that point, that might be the point that God was at, sitting at, or stand, whatever, when he created everything. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but I'm just saying, people can't definitively say that it's not. And, and also, I thought about this too. It's like, they say everything's moving through space because of the Big Bang, that everything's heading outward and da-da-da. And how do you know that, like, to me, like, life is like I said, when it comes to looking for life on other planets, obviously you have to have a fucking starting point. Since there's so many fucking planets out there, it would make sense to start with Earth-like planets and try to find places that have similar conditions, because we at least know that life is possible under similar circumstances. So I get that, but life could be fucking completely different than what we know it. There might be things out there, complex, even intelligent organisms, that don't need to breathe at all. You know, maybe they don't need a fucking atmosphere. Maybe their skin or whatever they have in place of skin can handle the radiation and shit from their star. So my point is that life, because look at all the things that, like, before we start exploring the bottom of the fucking ocean, people thought it was impossible for life to live down there where there's no fucking light at all. And what do they find? There's just fucking not only is there life, there's just fucking thousands of different fucking species that live and stay down there. You have you have plant-like organisms living down there. You have like fish and other organisms like that aren't stationary, that stay at the bottom of the ocean, that we would have never known about and people thought was fucking impossible. And so why is that not possible? But anyways, my whole point in this is saying that, what if each galaxy is a living organism? What if all of them are a living organism, and like, what if, like, you know, the supermassive black holes in the centers of them, what if that is where they keep their fucking knowledge? Like, what if that is essentially their brain, if you will? And, you know, scientists would be like, well, that's not a brain. It doesn't, how could that function as a brain? Besides, anytime anything goes in, nothing comes out. Well, you know, when things go into people's fucking heads, they don't usually come back out of there either. You know, you hear something, learn something, whether it's right or wrong, like that information, whether you believe it or not, that shit doesn't come back out of your head. You don't just automatically, I mean, yeah, we forget shit all the time, but it's probably stored in there someplace. Sorry. So it's like, what if all these galaxies are moving towards something? What if they're moving towards whatever it is they need life? Like, what if a galaxy, in order to live, has to keep producing stars instead of cells, you know, which are eerily similar to fucking cells. And, like, you know, like, by making more and more stars and even planets, like, that's how they're able to fucking continue living. What if there's something out there that whatever it is they use, or whatever it is that creates stars, what if there's like some giant bank of that out there that they're fucking all running towards or flying towards or whatever, that you know, that they're all running towards it. I've heard some people even talk about that, not in the way that I'm talking about it, but just talk about how, you know, the galaxies are moving, everything's moving. They call it, they don't know what they're going towards, even though they claim it's the Big Bang. and everything's moving away from that center point, it's like they call it the Great Attractor. Well, what if that's what they're going to? What if, like, billions of years to them is nothing? Maybe even trillions of years is nothing. And it's not impossible. I mean, it sounds pretty far-fetched, and I'm not saying I actually believe that, but I'm just saying there's nobody alive at any point throughout history that can prove that otherwise. And I mean, look at the different types of forms of life we have here that are just so fucking strange compared to what we know. You have things in the ocean that have to breathe. They have lungs, but they don't breathe, like, come up and breathe air. They breathe by fucking swimming constantly. And then you have other things in the ocean. You have mammals in the ocean, like dolphins and whales and shit, that have to breathe fucking air. And they can go under for long periods of time, but they have to breathe air. Doesn't that seem kind of strange that, like, you have things that have to stay submerged and have to keep moving, and then you got other things that can stop moving underwater and they come up and have to breathe air from above the surface of the water? Like that. I mean, it's awesome, but I'm just saying, see how there's different forms of life and it's not impossible that the galaxies could be a fucking living organism, and that maybe we really are a fucking cancer. And so it's like, what was I saying there? Anyhow, like, what if, like, because they said the Andromeda Galaxy is going to collide with us at some point, billions of years from now. What if Andromeda, I want to say Andromeda might be bigger than Milky Way. I'm not positive, but I think so. At least roughly the same size or bigger. What if, like, Andromeda, if the galaxies were living organisms, sees us like we're ahead of it, or we're going to get to this first, whatever the saying is that they're running towards, if that's really what is happening. And they're like, well, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna fucking, cut a fucking angle in that route, like a fucking football player, run over and just tackle the Milky Way, combine the two, become even fucking bigger of an organism, and then head on to whatever that is. I know this is all far-fetched, and like I said, I don't actually believe this, but I'm saying it's not fucking impossible. I mean, literally, it's not impossible. There's shit out there that we have never even began to conceive of, that nobody that has ever lived or ever will live, at least prior to going out and exploring and finding these things. There's shit out there that we could never even begin to fucking think of. Like, look at Venus. Venus and Mars are both, like, relatively close to that, Goldilocks zone. And Venus burned the fuck up. I mean, they've landed, had, like, landers, or rovers, not rovers, but, little landers that they've landed on Venus. But they melt in like fucking 10, 15 minutes, I think it was. They real quickly. But they got pictures of it. The skies are fucking just yellow as fuck because of all the sulfur. And it's basically like mustard gas. I think it's sulfur. Anyways, and it's all burned up. And then you look at Mars, which is past us, and it's just a cold fucking, just a desert wasteland too. Now, so there's things that, like, there's shit out there that nobody alive ever throughout history has ever even thought of. There's things out there that we could never even begin to conceive of. And sorry if I can get sidetracked. How much time do I got? 41. Okay, good. So I'm just saying, like, who fucking knows? But when it comes to science and scientific fact, like I said, I love science. I love learning shit about science, about space. But it just blows my mind. That's where I wanted to go with this. All right, look, just for life to be able to happen here. Now, we're just talking about things that are above the surface, because maybe things could live underwater if, we didn't have an atmosphere and all that. But I want to just point out all the different things that have to be exactly as they are in order for us to even be able to exist, let alone continue surviving and thriving and creating all the shit that we've done. Now, the planet being exactly where it is around the sun, that's not all that wild, because I'm sure there's plenty of other planets out there that are just as close, or just as far from their star, just depending on how you look at it. But it's like, motherfucker, sorry. But the fact that we're in a perfect spot to where it can get as cold as negative 51 fucking degrees in Chicago 2 winters ago, all the way up to like 115, 120 degrees on occasion in Chicago. That's a big fucking swing for a planet, you know, that like, you know, there's got a 3 million mile range on its distance from the sun throughout the year, but it's like, that's a huge fucking difference just on one planet. Now, so you got that. You got the we're close enough, which is awesome. And then you have this giant fucking dome over our planet that, you know, without it, we couldn't fucking survive. I mean the atmosphere when I say it. This invisible fucking dome that apparently we can punch through if we're going fast enough and get out into space and leave the fucking planet, which is wild as it is. But just having the atmosphere, without this atmosphere, we would not be able to exist. That right there is a fucking huge miracle. The fact that other planets don't even seem to have an atmosphere, but yet we do. That's a fucking huge miracle. Then you look at the fact that we have our the magnetic field. Like, why is it? What is it? I mean, I know science knows that, like, apparently melted fucking rocks can create a magnetic field around a planet, but they don't know why it is that melted fucking rocks give off, like even if they know why that creates a magnetic field, what I'm saying is they don't know why it is that instead of molten rock at the center of your fucking planet giving off a magnetic field, like, it could have just as easily not given off a magnetic field or given off something that would be deadly to us. So this giant magnetic field that we have, that's what makes your compasses fucking work, that's another fucking miracle. And without that, we'd be fucked, because that blocks out a lot of the harmful shit from the sun. What you see today, it's nice and warm out, it's beautiful. This invisible fucking dome over our heads that keeps us alive, and the magnetic field that allows us to enjoy this sunlight, that allows all of this shit to fucking grow when sunlight in the winter don't make it grow, you know. And you know, you can go out and get a suntan, you can do all, you know, the sun is a fucking, I mean, without it we would never be able to make it. But that motherfucking thing could kill us many different fucking ways, but because of our atmosphere and the magnetic field, it blocks out most of the harmful shit. You know, to an extent. I don't get like skin cancer and shit from being in the sun too much, but I'm just saying, you know, you can go about your life without the sun fucking just killing your ass. And the moon. Science thinks that, you know, we had like rings like fucking Saturn did, and they just all bunched up, which is what I don't understand, because like they say that, I've heard people say that they think that one day all them fucking, the rings around Mars are either going to disappear or they're going to clump up and make a moon type thing or something. And regardless of whether that's right or not, I'm not sure, but I swear I've heard that before. It's like, all right, say something hit the Earth and it knocked a bunch of debris out into space and it completely circled the planet, and we'll just say that it was, you know, 250,000 miles away from the Earth all the way around, because that's about how far the moon is. Now, I don't know that it would have been that far, but if gravity is always fucking consistent, it's just one of them things that it's never has inconsistencies that we know of, that I know of at least. But how is it that something that could be 250,000 miles away from the planet on one side and 250,000 miles away from the planet on the other side, so it's 500,000 miles away roughly, would be from the other side? What is it that if this perfect ring of rock and debris like perfectly circles it, at some point something would have to stop, like slow down some of it and either speed up or just let the rest of it go, and then it just finally makes its way around? Like, if gravity is consistent like that, as we can see with fucking Saturn, I mean, people hundreds of years ago could see the fucking rings of Saturn, and they're still in the same spot. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, they're still completely circle the planet. What the fuck would make it to suddenly slow down at one point and cause a break in the rings and cause it to finally clump up? And if that's the case, I mean, I don't know much about the moon, but it certainly looks like it's more than just a fucking giant pile of fucking debris in space. It looks like a solid body. Now, anyways, you have the moon itself. Having that fucking moon is just vitally important. That without the moon, like if the moon just vanished, that it would start slowly and then just pick up speed as to where the planet would start to fucking wobble, to where you can go from like blazing hot summer temperatures to freezing cold overnight. And you know what that would do? It would kill all the fucking crops and plants, which would kill all the animals, and eventually all the people would die because we wouldn't have anything to eat. Now, I don't know. Maybe at this point we could like grow shit underground, but or in bunkers and whatever. But point being is it would be fucked. And not only that, but that moon keeps us exactly on that tilt that we are at, which is what causes our seasons. It also is what helps to spin the planet. The gravity of the fucking moon doesn't just keep us lined up on that angle. It is what helps. One of the things that helps us spin. It might be the only thing that helps us spin. Because without it, we'd be wobbling. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's another miracle. And when I say miracle, when I'm talking about these things, like a miracle, don't even describe it like that. They needed another word to describe for like a super miracle. So you got that. Without the moon, we'd be fucked. And the fact that we have it, and it's exactly where it is, to where we're not spinning way too fast or way too fucking slow. You know what I mean? If a day was like 20 hours or 28 hours, like that wouldn't make all that much difference. But just the fact that like it keeps us at a perfect fucking spin, and I mean that's fucking huge. The fact that it's the distance away from us that it is, because if it was closer, we'd be spinning a lot faster, and if it was further, we'd be spinning a lot slower. The fact that not only do we have this atmosphere that makes sure that we have fucking oxygen, but dude, we have a built-in air filter. Look at this shit. That's what all this fucking overgrowth debris bullshit here is. It is a built-in fucking air filter. Imagine if plants needed oxygen too, and they emitted the same shit we breathe out. We would have died off fucking a long, long time ago. Because we couldn't have killed off all the plants in time to be able to save the air. And then again, since plants create the fucking oxygen, if they weren't creating the oxygen, even if we did wipe out all the fucking plants, where would our oxygen come from anyways? So that's another miracle. The fact that like, now I would imagine this part, I'm just taking a guess at. I'd have to imagine it's the case, but I just say the trade winds because I don't know what else would do it. But it's like, do you notice that like you could be in the middle of a jungle, or you could be in the middle of the fucking ocean without any plants within 1,000 fucking miles of you, and you could literally breathe as easy as you can anywhere else on the planet, on any piece of land. You could be in the middle of a desert where there ain't a plant within 100 miles, and you could breathe perfectly fine. Now, why do we have the trade winds? Now, I'm sure there's a scientific explanation for that, but I'm just saying they can't explain why it is that happened to happen, as opposed to there not being these fucking jet streams and trade winds and things that blow all over the fucking place. You know, it could have just as easily, if everything just happened to happen, it could very easily have been to where that isn't the case. So that's another miracle. Now, imagine that, like, if you had to be around plants and things to be able to breathe, we may have never came across the fucking ocean, although I'm sure the Native Americans would have been awful fucking happy about that. And slavery and all these other terrible things would have never happened. But I'm just saying, like, imagine that, or if you had to, like, have an enclosed ship, and you had to have, like, a greenhouse on your fucking ship in order to be able to survive, just like up in space. Like, if they set up shit on the moon or on Mars or something, they would have to have stuff like that, like a greenhouse that's going to help not only create air, but get rid of the carbon dioxide or monoxide or whatever the fuck it is we exhale. I'm just going to call it carbon dioxide, 'cause I think that's what it is. I don't know, but y'all know what I mean. But the fact that, like, not only with the winds blowing everything around, and that's the thing too, if we didn't have all them jet streams and trade winds and things, even if there was air everywhere, how the fuck would the ships that had sails get anywhere if there's no fucking wind? They just drift. Either that or you have to get some strong motherfuckers to bust out the fucking oars and paddle for 1,000 fucking miles across the fucking ocean. And the fact that we can create shit. I mean, you can have things that'll sink like a fucking ton of lead in the water, and then you can create things that could sit on top of that water and get you safely across. Now, that's something that people say, well, that was people that did that. Well, true, but who gave them the fucking idea? You know, why is it that you can create something that is able to sit on top of the water? I mean, it could have just as easily been the fact that, like, no matter what you put on the water, it could sink. no matter what it is, even like a giant balloon, you know, not one that floats up, of course, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you can make a giant bubble that could have just as easily sank. But the fact that, like, things are able to float on the water to get around is another miracle. But this built-in air filter, man. I mean, how much of a miracle is that? If plants didn't exist, we would have never made it. There's a lot more. Just to fucking look at, like, atoms, okay? Everything is made up of atoms, okay? This fucking pavement is made up of atoms. Yet, I can't, the atoms in my hand don't just blend with the fucking atoms of the fucking road. Because if things couldn't hold their shape and retain their shape, we'd all fell to the fucking middle of the earth and burn up in that molten fucking rock thousands of years ago. So the fact that everything is made up of the same thing, yet everything holds its shape, and you can't just, like, put your hand through a fucking door. I mean, you can, but you probably break your fucking hand and punch a hole through it. But you know what I mean? Like, you can't just blend your fucking atoms with the atoms of something else and become part of that, you know, or go through that, you know. And it's like, that's another fucking miracle. Now, I didn't sit and go over this on my own before I started this one, because there's a lot more things that I've thought of that are crazy, but just the fact that our bodies are able to work, period. The fact that your heart and your brain is strong as fuck is a huge miracle. I mean, look at the fucking wear and tear people put on their fucking bodies for decades sometimes. A lot of times. And your fucking heart and your brain just keep on fucking going. That's fucking amazing. I mean, you can have people that just drink tons of alcohol or do tons of hard drugs, and they just keep on fucking living. Their bodies are somehow able to, you know, granted that shit, both of those can kill you too, but I'm just saying, like, you have to really put in some work for the most part. I mean, yeah, you can, like, overdose the first time you try some hard drug, but I'm just saying, the fact that people can do all kinds of, like, meth and crack and cocaine and heroin and all these things, and their bodies just still keep going. Sorry. So, all these different things are just insanely miraculous. I had another one too. Oh, isn't it fucking wild that, like, we don't have to actually sit and consciously make our heart keep beating and the other functions of our body? We don't have to sit there, like, when you eat a meal, sit there and, like, concentrate and make your body digest it. It just fucking does it. You don't have to think a fucking thought about it. You could eat some fucking shit that's really bad for you, and your body's just gonna process it and turn it into shit. Which ain't crazy. Like, I just ate a bunch of steak over the last week. It's so wild that, like, my body can take perfectly good steak and just turn it literally into shit. But just the fact that we can shit and piss to get rid of all the extra shit that we don't fucking need. That's another miracle. The fact that, like, the fingerprints that nobody, I mean, as far as we know, because they weren't taking fingerprints up until, like, 60, 70, 80, 90 years ago, somewhere there. But it's like, the fact that nobody has the same fingerprint. Now, granted, they might, you know, God might be reusing fingerprints from people from, you know, from long ago, but there's nobody on the earth with the same fingerprint. That is fucking incredible. Like, that's far more incredible than having, like, a fucking serial number. Like, that's fucking insane. And I don't know, there's just so many different things. Like, imagine if you had to sit and consciously make your heart beat. You know how many people would have fucking died forever ago? There'd be people that just get fucking lazy and be like, oh, dude, just fuck it. I don't want to sit and do this anymore. And just give up and die. And all of these different things have to be exactly like they are. And then if any fucking one of them were tweaked, even to the slightest degree, life would no longer be possible. Or wouldn't have been possible to begin with. So, it's like, how the fuck is it that as science learns about all these things that people don't have a tendency to believe more in God? I don't understand that. I just really fucking don't understand that. Like, you would think that people would be more likely to not believe in God way back when, and as time goes on, it's like, man, has to be something to this. I mean, just the fact that religion has been around for fucking as far back in history as we know. That every fucking culture in any part of the planet, the entire history of mankind that we know of, all have stories that are very similar. Maybe not the exact same stories, but like all the different tribes of Native Americans, every one of them had some kind of a belief or something about, you know, them, and they believed in more than one God, but it's like they everywhere in the world believe that there's something in, like, that there's an afterlife. And I mean, look at the Egyptians too. That shit was a long time ago. I believe that was before Jesus was around. And everybody, now granted, they believed in more than one God, and they thought they could take all their shit with them when they died, but they learned that one wasn't true. And what did he say? Like, I think it's Denzel Washington's like, yeah, he's like, you can't, you know, you'll never see a fucking U-Haul following a hearse because you can't take nothing with you. He's like, the Egyptians tried. They got robbed. You know? But all throughout history, there are stories of the afterlife and of God or gods or something else bigger than, better than us that could create us. And I think the thing that bothers me, one of the things that bothers me the most about people as a whole, just as time goes on, believing less and less that God's real or could even be possible, is it's like, I look at it like it's just fucking vanity and arrogance. Like, I swear to you, as a whole, collectively, people think that we are like the fucking biggest, baddest, greatest fucking thing that could ever happen in the whole universe. It's like, dude, just this planet fucking alone is far more substantial, amazing than all human beings that have ever lived and will ever live put together, except for Jesus. And the solar system, the sun. I mean, yeah, the science knows some stuff about the sun, but holy shit. Like, at the surface, it's like millions of fucking degrees, man. And I'm out here fucking tanning my legs today because they don't have as much sun as my arms do. You know? That's fucking wild. But what makes that shit happen? And they're like, oh, well, this is how a star's formed and everything. All right, cool. But why is it that the things that science can outline as how stars are formed, why is it that those things create stars instead of something else or nothing at all? You know, why is it that those things don't just create a black hole or something instead and everything just gets sucked up into it? And it blows my mind that people as a whole over time just less and less and less and less and less believe. Why? Look at this. I'm sitting here with a fucking computer in my pocket that has substantially more computing power than the fucking thing that took people to and landed on the fucking moon and took back off and got them back home. This little phone right here in my pocket is just dramatically more computing power, or has dramatically more computing power than that thing did. I mean, what the fuck? And people give credit to humans on that shit. Well, them ideas had to come from somewhere. And I mean, look at how for thousands and thousands of years technology was just so fucking slow at evolving. People riding horses for fucking hundreds or thousands of fucking years. And then all of a sudden, just bam, out of the fucking blue, all this technology just started popping up. And just changes faster and faster as time goes on. And people are more, as a whole, I mean, there's people out there that are more likely to believe that aliens landed on our planet and gave us this technology than God putting these ideas into people's heads. There's people that are more likely to believe that aliens brought us all this technology than God even being able to exist. That's fucking stupid. But I could sit here with this fucking piece of technology that only cost me $1, you know, and it's 5 years old. The fucking screen is fucked up. The camera on the backside hasn't worked for like a year now, and it's on its last leg. And yet I can still sit here. All I want is, provided I have space, and just keep recording video after video and uploading it to this thing called the internet. You know, and it's just, and anybody in the entire fucking world can see it. Somebody on the other side of the fucking planet could just boop, type in my name or what. There it is. Shit that I did fucking years ago, a few years back. They could look at that. Like, holy shit, dude, this is fucking amazing. It's fucking absolutely fucking amazing. And people just like, oh, well, we'll give credit to humans because, you know, we're all just so fucking smart and amazing, right? Like, look at history. You want to see how fucking smart people are as a whole? Look at fucking history. Look at history. You can find just thousands and thousands upon thousands of examples of how stupid people are as a fucking whole. And you got, I don't know, it's just all this wild shit that I just don't I really would like to keep rolling on this, but I got soccer to watch and I got about 2.5, 3 minutes left. So, well, no, I probably got 5 minutes or so after that too. I guess I'll go a little bit longer, but I have a whole bunch of other stuff I want to talk about, and I just forgot what that was. Oh, about history and about how things, going the way they did, creating things like how, like, World War II didn't happen. Many of us wouldn't have never been born, because all the people that went overseas, and I've talked briefly on this on other things, but I just want to say it again because a lot of them videos are so far back in my list that I don't think people ever even run across them. But the fact that, all the people that died in the war that never had kids, or people, who, like, women who had kids with people here while their husbands or whoever were away, fighting the Nazis, or men that went overseas and knocked up some girl over there that they wouldn't have otherwise, and the baby boom would have never fucking happened, and therefore the population would be at least smaller than what it is right now. And most likely, most of us that were born after that war, especially as time goes on, the further we get away, further removed we are from that time, like, none of us have ever been born, or at least most of us. And just seeing how bad things can ultimately create a greater good. Now, granted, we also got the fucking Bilderberg group out of it, but, when you look at, like, what am I trying to say? Oh, all the technology, man. Microwaves, jet fuel, jet engines, of course, like, weapons of mass destruction, nuclear bombs came out of it, but at the same time, it's good, I think, that nuclear weapons or atomic weapons came out of it and the nuclear weapons were created, because that's what keeps everybody from getting too fucking crazy. Because they know that, anybody that could try fucking setting off a nuclear bomb anywhere, they know they're going to get retaliated against, so that keeps people from doing it. If the Nazis had come up with that shit first, full fucking well that they would have started bombing us, and the whole world could have been very different. But topics like that I really want to go into, because there's a lot of things that, like, even some delicate subjects that I want to talk about that even things that were fucking terrible throughout history, but in the end, down the road, way after the fact, have created some fucking good. Or good things came out of it in the end, So I'm going to get on that another topic, because I'm almost out of space, and I have to upload all this shit and then delete these off my phone so I can make more fucking room. One of these days, I'm going to just clear up a whole bunch of space so I can just do, like, a couple hours at a time, because I could fucking talk for fucking ever about all kind of different stuff. But anyways, let me see what this is going to cut me off at any moment now. Here we go.